At 74 years of age, Joseph D'Angelo admitted in a plea deal that he is responsible for a crime spree which included 13 known murders and nearly 50 rapes between 1975 and 1986. He left a trail of murders, rapes, and home burglaries throughout the East Bay area in the 1970s and 80s.
I've listened to all your statements, each one of them. And I'm truly sorry to everyone I've hurt.
The first known attack come as Joseph D'Angelo was an Exeter police officer. September 11, 1975, Claude Snelling, a professor at a nearby college, was shot to death by the Golden State Killer as he tried to take the professor's 16-year-old daughter, Beth, late that night in Visalia, California. Visalia, California is 10 miles from Exeter, where D'Angelo served as a police officer. 26 victims later, in 1977, Margaret Warlode, who happened to be 13 years old the night of the attack, became rape victim number 27.
I had huge fascination in the case because there had been so many attacks. My mom had this saying, she'd always say, "I'm too old and you're too young." My mom was 55 at the time, of course I was 13. So we really thought we were off the radar. I was awoken with a flashlight in my face. I couldn't make out the individual that was holding it, but he told me to turn over, lie on my stomach. He was gonna tie me up. Once he had tightened up those ligatures, I knew at that very moment, this is most likely the East Area Rapist. He blindfolded me, he gagged me, and I knew exactly what was gonna happen. And I just mentally prepared myself.
The burglaries, assaults, and murders continued throughout the East Bay area and started progressing along the coast to California.
It was about 6:30 in the morning. My husband was just leaving for work, and my 3-year-old son came out of his bedroom and got in bed with me to snuggle. Within 2 minutes, I saw a bright light shining down the hall and someone running down the hall. I hardly had time to react when I looked up, and there was a man wearing a ski mask, holding a large butcher knife, proceeded to tie us both up, our ankles and our wrists, with shoelaces. I'm wondering, what is this guy contemplating? And he did it for the longest time. And then, as soon as he untied my ankles, then I knew what he was there for.
He showed no signs of slowing down. In fact, the crimes were only becoming more heinous and brutal.
I think that had it been a couple years later, I think I probably would have died.
He would attack couples, tie them both up, and rape the females, while forcing the husband to watch.
Something was said to the effect, "Don't move or I'll kill you." Then he tells me to roll over and get face down. He had some shoelaces in his pocket, and he instructed her to tie my hands. He takes her off into the living room. And whatever else he's doing in the other part of the house, he's raping her. I hear some whimpering. This whole thing has been going on for 25 or 30 minutes, okay?
Like the psychopath that he is, he would call his victims many nights after the attacks, leaving chilling voice messages behind. He investigated many of his own crimes, which helped lead to his decades of evasion. What he didn't expect was the vast advancements in DNA forensic analytics in the coming years. In 1979, he was fired from the police department for stealing a hammer and a can of dog repellent. Then in 1986, he murdered and raped 18-year-old Janelle Cruz in Irvine, California, which was his last known attack.
why the police can't catch the rapist, and worried about their own homes being violated.
I put locks on my
The
doors.
next rape could be anywhere.
And still, nobody even knows what he looks like.
The cases went unsolved for decades, but genetic genealogy would lead to his eventual capture. Genetic genealogy is a new technique that takes DNA of a suspect left behind at a crime scene and identifies him or her by tracing a family tree through his or her family members who voluntarily submit their DNA to a public genealogy database. To identify Joseph DeAngelo, investigators filtered the genealogy search based on age, location, and other characteristics. After he fit a profile from one of his relatives' genealogy, they surveilled him and collected DNA from a tissue left in the trash. And it was a match.
That bombshell arrest, that former police officer who authorities say went on a reign of terror for so many years. The numbers, as I mentioned, are simply staggering. At least 12 murders, 45 rapes. They have been searching for more than 4 decades, and tonight the major clue that unlocked this just days ago. They say this is their man, Joseph DeAngelo, now 72, arrested outside his home. They surprised him. He spent years as a California police officer. He'd been married. ABC's Whit Johnson leads us off from California on the man dubbed the Golden State Killer.
Tonight, hiding in plain sight, police say one of the most elusive serial killers in American history has been captured outside his suburban home.
We found the needle in the haystack, and it was right here in Sacramento.
Law enforcement now identifying 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo as the Golden State Killer. The once married former police officer now under arrest for a violent crime spree that terrorized California for more than 40 years.
He was arrested in April 2018 in Sacramento County. When it's all said and done, he's accepting responsibility for 13 counts of murder, 13 counts of kidnapping, and 62 rapes. He pleaded guilty in June 2020 and faces life in prison without the opportunity for parole.